So today, as always, like we said, we talk about it on a regular basis. It is Tuesday Tips, y'all, here on the Pick Me Up at 5 show. I want to talk about it. I want to get into it. And I want to kind of go back on some of the things that we talked about last week. So I'm going to bring on my guest. It looks like we do have a guest on the show. Carl, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, welcome to the Pick Me Up at 5 show. And do you want to, let's break down. I appreciate your time today. And I definitely, like I said earlier, I know we're out here hustling and getting that money. So I appreciate you taking a minute here of your time to join us here on the Pick Me Up at 5 show. Let's get a little introduction to yourself before we take a break. And then after the break, I want to get into it a little bit more with you. But go ahead and give the callers or listeners kind of the introduction to yourself.
Well, my name is Brandon, but on YouTube, I'm formerly known as Young Lifestyle. And basically what I do is I'm an entrepreneur, but I do ride sharing part-time. So
Okay.
what I like to do is basically just empower entrepreneurs such as you guys and, provide you guys with some tips to maximize the amount of money that you make.
Oh, well, once again, Brandon, a.k.a. you said Lifestyle. You said that's what you're known as well, Young Lifestyle. Okay. Well, like I said, definitely welcome to the show. And what city and state are you in, which you do your primary, your rideshare driving in?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. Good deal. Well, I'm pretty sure it's busy up there all the time in Brooklyn, definitely. So
Definitely, man.
I'm sure there's quite a bit. Actually, I don't know if you tuned in before, but I've mentioned to you guys that RideShare is probably not my choice of venture if I lived in New York, because my experience, and I moved here from Richmond, Virginia, so I was up in the northern part of the state. So I frequented New York quite a bit for many, many years. I was up there, it seems like every 2-3 months. And you can't get me to drive nowhere in New York because y'all just drive next to each other. Y'all drive on top of each other like a double-decker bus all the time. I'm going to pass me the sandwich downstairs. I couldn't do the ride share. That's road rage right there. So shout out to you, Brandon, because you a trooper, man, if you able to maintain and handle it down in New York.
Man, if you could drive in New York, you could drive anywhere.
Oh, yeah, that's most definite. I'm telling you, you hit it right on the head. If you can park in New York, forget drive. If you can figure out how to park in these tight spaces, they got spaces in New York that are like mini Cooper-sized parking spaces, but you got this Escalade and this big old truck, and you got to try to fit it in this mini Cooper spot, and somehow they do it. I don't know how. Shout out to them. And this is before all of that driving assistance, parking assistance crap. Oh, no. Somebody from New York did not come up with that driving assistance, by the way, because they knew how to do it. They said, we don't need no help. I don't need no cameras. I don't need nobody driving the car for me. I got this, son. So that's what we do. That's what we try to do up in New York. So once again, man, Brandon, I definitely appreciate you being on. I want to get into it a little bit because it sounds like you like to share different tips, and that's what we're all about on Tuesday here on the Pick Me Up at 5 show. So I like to get into it. I want to get into it with you a little bit today about some of the tips that you may have for some of the listeners that are a part of the rideshare community. I know you said you do some other ventures, so we'll touch on that as well. I really want to get into it with the drivers, and I got some tips of my own I want to share, and I want to get some feedback from you as well. So buckle up, y'all. Get in the back seat. Get ready. We want to take a quick break, and once we get back from the break, so Brandon, you want to stick around for a little bit?
Yeah, definitely, man.
Good deal. So let's take a quick break here on the Pick Me Up at 5 show, and then we will be right back with our guest today talking about tips on Tuesday tips on the Pick Me Up at 5 show. All right, y'all, welcome back to the Pick Me Up at 5 show after that quick break. And once again, y'all, we are on here on our Tuesday tips show with the Pick Me Up at 5 show. And as always, y'all, I am your host and your chauffeur for the hour, Randall Alexanders. As I mentioned to you guys before, definitely stay tuned because coming up at the bottom of the hour, 6 p.m., you guys will be able to ride out, get some tunes going, get some feel-good music in you, get some in your system to listen to on with our host DJ P Funk. But before we went to break, y'all, we definitely brought on and introduced our guest here today on the Pick Me Up at 5 show, and we're talking to Brandon, aka on the YouTube, it was Young Life, correct?
Young lifestyle.
Young Lifestyle. So we're talking to Brandon, and Brandon is someone who, as mentioned before, is not only a driver, an entrepreneur, tries to help people out when it comes to different tips and get their kind of money flow situation going well. And like I mentioned to you guys multiple times, RideShare, Uber, Lyft, all the other ventures that guys can do is globally, it is internationally, it's from coast to coast. So we got Brandon out of Brooklyn. So once again, Brandon, welcome to the show. And we were talking before the break about some of the things that on this show we talk about always on Tuesday tips. And I want to focus today on talking about gaming tips. So I had an opportunity to look at some of your videos about some of the things that you do to maybe help promote and generate additional tips. So from the rider standpoint, which do you ride on? Do you drive on Uber or Lyft? What platform do you drive on?
Well, currently I'm doing a mixture of Uber Eats, Postmates, DoorDash, Caviar. Yeah, that's about it at the moment.
Okay. You got some Jamaican in you, huh? You got all these different things going on right now. You driving all over the place in Brooklyn, New York. They know you in Brooklyn. Forget about Jay-Z. They know Brandon. You driving everywhere. So that's what's up. So let's focus. I want to focus first, and I want to come back to it because I also want to share, and I had on a guest previously last week, and we shared the other venues that you guys can generate extra income, such as what you mentioned, the Postmates and that kind of thing. Let's talk about Uber and Uber Eats for a minute for those of our listeners that are in the Lyft and the Uber rideshare. So tip-wise, do you kind of have first of all, how do you feel about tips? Some people don't like asking for them. Some people feel like if they get them, cool. What's your philosophy when it comes to that on Uber and Uber Eats? Right.
Well, to be honest, since tips hasn't been there for a long time, like they just recently added it on there, I can't really say anything about like Uber and Uber Eats in terms of tips. But like as a person, I feel if you're doing your job properly, you should be getting tips. And most of the time, that's not the case. You might have certain customers who, no matter what you do, they won't tip you. But I feel like everybody should get a tip if you do your job properly.
Okay, right. So it's along the same lines as maybe going to a restaurant, right? And you have the service, waiter or waitress service, and it should be kind of hopefully an expectation with some of our riders that they should tip, right? It sounds like. So let me ask you this because, of course, you know, and I'm sure you got an update. Of course, Uber finally decided to catch up on the marathon. I mean, it was like the tortoise and the hare, and eventually Uber decided, oh, wait a minute, maybe we should listen to the drivers that are asking for tips to be on the app. And they finally got with the program and decided to do that. So now, of course, you have the ability to tip through the Uber app, right? So previously, prior to that, were you doing anything in particular? I know a lot of people talk about the tip jar, tip boxes, that kind of thing they had in their car if they drove for Uber because they didn't have the same ability as Lyft to allow the passengers to tip on the app. Were you doing anything like that before that became an option?
Basically, I was using the tip jar, as you mentioned before. I was also doing other apps basically to create extra income. There's a couple other apps that like let you advertise using your car. So basically, you can just put advertisements in your car while you're driving, and they'll pay you basically monthly. So I was doing that as well.
So y'all listen up, man. Brandon sounds like he's utilizing the vehicle platform to generate some residual income, and most of the time it's just by simply driving, right? So you got a advertisement going up, which is kind of catching the driver, the passenger's eye, and you're also getting paid doing it as well. Sounds like. So how did the tip jar go? So talk to me about that. What inspired you to decide to get a tip jar, and then how did that experience go when you first did it?
Well, a lot of the times when I'm driving, it would basically be like, oh man, you did such a great job. I wish I could tip you or something. And I didn't really have anything in place to get the tips. So I was like, hey, why don't I, add this into the car? Give them the choice to basically tip me or not.
And did you start to see some change in your tipping? Because I'm sure you, so prior to the tip jar, right? Just like myself, I'm sure that you still occasionally would get those passengers that happen to say, hey man, I enjoyed the ride and I do happen to have a couple dollars on me. Here you go. So did you still got tips, right, prior to the tip jar?
Yeah, definitely. You always had some type of customers that really appreciated what you did, and they just gave you tips without you even having to ask.
And so once you had the tip jar instilled, did you see an increase at all in kind of your weekly? Did you track any of that to kind of see whether or not you saw additional tips being done on a weekly or monthly basis?
Well, it kind of depended on where I drove for that day. So in Brooklyn, it was kind of like people on the cheaper side, but in like Manhattan-ish, you would pretty much get more people who are more willing to give you something after the ride.
And so having that tip jar maybe made it a little bit easier for them to see it getting in the car and just kind of I call it psychological game, right? Psychological warfare. You're playing with their psyche. You're letting them know that there is the option to tip without you maybe even having to mention it now, and it's right there, and they might be more amped to tip to drop something in the jar, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So you saw that, which is good. Do you still have it up, even though the Uber now have the ability to offer tips on the website or on through that?
Yeah, you never know, because a lot of people, they're not really technologically sound, so they might not know how to tip through the app. So they might just give you cash tips. So either way,
you still decided to keep the tip jar in your car even after the addition, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I personally, I agree with that. And I think that should be the same way even if you drive for Lyft, who already has the tip option. And here's why. I kind of shared that online with some people not too long ago. And here's my thought process. I'm sure yourself, Brandon, just like me, have ended up, you get a ride request, right? You get the request through the app, and it says, Stacy requested this ride, and here's a picture of Stacy, and here's where you're going to go pick Stacy up at. And you driving through lights. You over here driving through red lights because that picture of Stacy is fine as hell. You like, I'm going to go pick up Stacy immediately. You pull up, and there's a 600-pound guy standing there outside talking about, hey, I'm your rider, Stacy, and ordered the ride for me. And you just disappointed as hell. You like, what is it? Where is Stacy? I'm not picking. So we end up picking up those third parties from the ride request. And obviously, this guy that got in the car is not Stacy. He's not the app. He doesn't have the ability to tip me. But maybe this guy and I have good rapport. We talking about the game. We having a good conversation, whatever it is. And he's got a couple dollars in his pocket that he now has the ability to tip me. And otherwise, he may not have that ability because he's not the requester, right? He can't go back on the app afterwards and add $1 or $2 tip. So that's kind of one of my thought processes there as well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. You just want to have everything accessible because you don't know how you're going to be able to make money. So if you just make different ways to be accessible, then you're more likely to get more money.
So the more ways that we present an opportunity for our customers, the better. And the more opportunity at the end of the day, it comes back to putting money in our pocket.
Yeah,
now,
basically.
I heard, and I saw one of your videos, and you were talking about ways to generate tips through, I think it was Postmates. And I agree. And like I said, I want to stay with the Uber platform for a minute because you did mention Uber Eats. And I want to know if you apply the same concept from what I saw when it comes to Uber Eats and generating tips. So when it came to delivery, and I know that you mentioned like 3 different steps as far as keeping the customer updated. You talked about letting them know, hey, here's the time frame I should be there. It was a pleasure delivering, that kind of thing. Do you do the same concept on Uber Eats as well when it comes to maybe assisting with generating a tip? Do you have any tips for those people that are looking for tips when it comes to Uber Eats?
Well, yeah, it's something that you can apply to every platform that you use, but I've definitely started using it on Uber Eats. And now that there's like tipping on there, it kind of makes it easier for the customer to tip you. But like in terms of using the system, I was seeing like more cash tips after I did deliveries. Because most of the time, you know, if you don't really ask for tips, they're not going to give it to you. But I mean, if you're basically showing the customer that, you know, you care about getting the food to them on time and that you really care about the product that you're providing to them, they're more likely or more inclined to give you a tip.
Right,
so like when I started adding that to, you know, delivering, I started seeing like the amount of money I would make within a week or 2 weeks started going up. Like I was making probably an extra $150. Like adding that one little, you know, step to your money system, it can do a lot for you. Because the extra $200 for people can do a lot for them.
Hey, listen, let me tell you something. An extra $200 for me right now every couple of weeks will do something for me. Maybe these people at Georgia Power will get their electric bill paid and they can have this money and stop calling me talking about we might turn the air off because it's too hot in Georgia to be turning my air off. So you're absolutely right. The extra $200, and then we got strip clubs here, so I can help benefit somebody get their college tuition paid for the extra $200 a week. So listen, Brandon, we once again, y'all, we're talking to Brandon from Brooklyn, and we're talking about the different ways to generate tips. I want to take another quick break. We got to pay some bills, y'all. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Brandon, I want you to share with our listeners. We talked about the steps that you took, and I shared with everybody the video that I saw, but not everybody maybe has had a chance to see the video, so I want to help direct them to where to find it. But since we got you on the phone, I want you to actually share those steps. Step by step, I want to talk about it. So get that ready. When we come back from break, y'all, I want to get into it specifically so y'all can take a minute during the break, get a pen and paper, go to your notes on your phone section or whatever, but get some of these steps down because when we're done, it's dinner time, y'all. Turn on that Uber Eats, go start making these deliveries, and hopefully you can start to get some of this money generated today. So we're going to take a quick break. Brandon, hold tight. And when we get back from break, I want to get into it with Brandon about some of the tips that he uses to generate some money. So we'll be right back here on the Pick Me Up at 5 show. Welcome back to the Pick Me Up at 5 show. You guys are on and live again with your chauffeur for the hour, Randall Alexander. And just, of course, a reminder, guys, tune in and stay tuned because coming up at the top of the hour in about 30 minutes or the bottom of the hour in about 30 minutes, you guys will hear the sound of our host DJ, DJ P Funk. And also, y'all, just as a reminder, I know I talked to you all about it before, but if you do have your own thing going on, you're an entrepreneur, you want to reach out to the RideShare community, it's something that you want to advertise, you want to talk to them about your business and your ventures going on, feel free to, again, head to our Facebook page, head to the page, go to the messages, send us a message and talk to me about your business ventures and what you have going on. And we can talk to you guys with our marketing team about the possible opportunities that could be for you to get on during one of our commercial breaks and promote and help. Because once again, y'all, we are all part of the RideShare community. There's lots out here for us. We want to share it. We want to get into it each and every day with you guys. So keep in mind, we are here and we're here to share that and just be a part of that community. So once again, y'all, we are on here today with Brandon from Brooklyn, and he is a part of the RideShare community in addition to other ventures that he does as well. So once again, Brandon, welcome back. And I want to, we talked about it right before the break. We were talking specifically about Uber, and we were talking about Uber Eats specifically and ways to generate additional tips. So for those of you that aren't familiar, of course, Uber Eats is the platform where you guys deliver food. And we talked about Brandon has different steps that he wants to share with you guys in regards to possibly generating more tips. Now, of course, we know that there's now that option on the app to pay a tip, add a tip on there if you like, but we're talking about also cash tips. And we're talking about different ways to generate that. So Brandon mentioned that he has different steps. So I want to talk about that. So take out your notepad, write some notes down, y'all figure out how to get these additional tips. So Brandon, share with the listeners today about what process do you take in order to, what are the specific steps that you make to kind of facilitate and hopefully, kind of generate tips?
Okay, so basically how I started off is you receive the order, and once you receive the order, you want to just text the customer, let them know, hey, I just received your order, so I'll be heading to the restaurant. And after you park and you get into the restaurant, if you are having any problems at the restaurant, because a lot of people, sometimes the restaurant is backed up, they didn't make the food yet, you just want to let the customer know. You want to just basically be accountable and let them know if there's any stoppages or if you're having a problem. And, I didn't notice how much customers really like that you do that until I started doing it. And they was like, hey, thanks for letting me know. But
becoming more customer service, right? So becoming more service oriented than just the delivery, right? Pick up, drop off.
Yeah, definitely. You just want to basically just keep them in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
As
so
a
then after you let them know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, because I'm saying as a customer, when, you order your food, you're hungry, so you want your food. You don't want to be waiting 1,000 years. You don't know what's going on.
Right.
So.
Okay. So letting them know, keeping them pretty much abreast of the situation. Like you said, they may think that you're running in there and that their order is, because when it's you worried about you, right? You thinking it's all about you. You thinking a restaurant specifically made this meal just for you, and it's literally right by the door waiting for me, you, whoever to walk in and pick it up. They don't know that the back chef is just now getting to it. So keeping them updated. So we got that. Letting them know you're on the way, letting them know if you run into any problems, and then what else do you do as well?
So after that, once you receive the food, you want to let them know when you receive the food. And then as you're using the app usually tells you when your arrival time is supposed to be. So usually I tell them I add 6 or 7 minutes onto that because sometimes you might have traffic or, things happen when you're on the way to the customer. So you want to add about 6-7 minutes to that arrival time. And usually it kind of makes it look like you got there a bit faster when you do get there early, because if they're expecting you in 13 minutes and you get there in 7, they're like, oh, wow, they came here fast. So,
right.
And then after that, after you deliver the food, usually like right before I give them the food, I'll have the text message written out. I'll say, it was a pleasure delivering to you today. So just be sure to close out the app and you have a great night. And I just send that like right when I give them the food before like I end the delivery. And yeah, just adding that little thing to your deliveries can make you a lot of extra money.
So it sounds pretty simple, right? I mean, you don't find it being you're going above and beyond, and then you're taking those simple steps in order to it just really sounds like keeping the customer abreast of what's going on, right? Letting them know every stop of the way, and letting them know that you appreciate it, but you're on the way, and keeping them informed. So once you started to add that, did you start to see an additional tips going on when it came to that?
Well, in terms of all the apps that I use, I would say for every 10 deliveries, I would probably see tips on about 7 of them.
Wow.
Which was like way up from the original, probably out of 10 deliveries, I would have like maybe 2 of them tipped. So,
wow.
That's a huge difference.
So for those of you all that, maybe did not pass like first grade math, that's the difference between 20%, 2 out of 10, y'all. You take out your calculators because I know we use them all the time. We forgot how to count. But we talking about a difference between 20% and 70 or so percent. That's a 50% increase of your earning potential as they pertain to tips. So if you telling me that you can increase from 20% to 70%, or for those of you that are in school, we're talking about getting an F, to getting a C, which means you barely getting through the grade in the school and you barely pass. But I'm gonna tell you what, some of these classes I took in college, I will gladly take a C over this F that I got. So trust and believe, we're talking about a huge difference, and those add up as dollars. And tips are, you don't have to tell the government about tips about nothing when they cash tips, right? So we're talking about free money right here that is not going to be added on your tax returns when you sit here and do it. So I definitely want you guys to take heed and listen to this, because if you're in the business of making money, which if we're in the rideshare community, I would hope we're in the business of making money, this could potentially add to your earnings. So, Randy, you mentioned before that you have other platforms that you use. Do you apply this same concept to those as well?
Yeah, I originally started using it on Postmates, and like on Postmates, it did a huge difference. Not only because you had to basically text the customer before you ended the delivery, because the way Postmates is set up, the telephone number that you actually text them by, it's like a telephone number owned by Postmates. So once the delivery is over, the connection between you and the customer kind of like dies. Like if you text them after the delivery, it won't work anymore.
So it's kind of like the same with Uber as well, right? Because with that phone number, once they're out of your car, you that's over. You're done with it.
Yeah. So that's
what's
why
Postmates, real quick, just for the people that don't know. What's Postmates?
You asked what's Postmates?
Yeah, just for the people that don't know. I'm familiar with it, but we might have some listeners that aren't so familiar with Postmates. So what kind of service is that again?
So Postmates is kind of similar to Uber Eats in the terms of delivery, but with Postmates, you can basically get everything delivered. So it can be electronics, clothes, even luggage. Like the things that you could get delivered is endless. So.
Oh, okay. So it's similar to like even Amazon, where you can order pretty much anything and have that. So that, that's good to know, because I didn't even know that you could order anything other than food. I didn't know people were ordering food inside of a suitcase with the PlayStation added in there, having it all delivered. So I didn't know that. That's news to me. I thought Postmates was generally food, but that's good information to know. So Postmates was something that you tested this platform on, and you started to see that 50% increase in terms of tips and things like that.
Yeah, like my tips went up by a crazy amount, especially since I was doing it. Mostly Postmates is in Manhattan, so Manhattan tips tend to tip higher. So the tips were like crazy amounts. Like I was getting tipped like $10, $20, $15. So it was good. Now
let me ask you this, and I've heard from a lot of drivers out here, especially with the Uber Eats and things like that, is that a lot of the people that you're delivering to assume, or they say they do, but of course they'll say anything, but they assume that a tip is already automatically included and that the driver is getting a tip because there's that, forgot exactly the verbiage, but it's kind of like a delivery charge. So the customer is being charged for the item, and then the customer is being charged a delivery charge. And for some people, they say, well, I thought that delivery charge was going to you, but in fact, that's not going to you. That's going to Postmate, or that's going to Uber. And so did you run into that, or have you heard a lot of people say that, oh, I did not know that you weren't actually getting a tip unless I actually tipped you?
No, most of the time they pretty much know what they're doing. Like if they don't want to tip you, it's because they really just don't want to tip you.
And like I said, we have some cheap ass people out here, and I told them all the time, they know good and well that the delivery fee is called a charge for convenience of getting this item to you. So you know that this ain't no tip. You know good and damn well that the driver's not getting any additional money unless you physically reach in your pocket and touch a dollar bill and give it to them. So I definitely, I thank you for sharing some of that. We're going to take another quick break. Before we do, though, I'm going to let you get out of here because I know you want to make some money and get some of that tips that we talked about. So how can people learn more about you, about kind of the tips that you provide for them to kind of generate an additional income? Give us some feedback real quick about you yourself and how people can follow you and get in touch with you.
Well, you guys can check me out on YouTube. My name is Young Lifestyle, but there's an underscore between the Young and the life is spelled with a Y. So it's YOUNG underscore LYFESTYLE. Or you guys can follow me on my website. It's BrandonMayMediaServices.com. And I'm actually coming out with a course soon and a free ebook to show you guys how to, make more money through RideShare. So stay tuned for that.
Cool. Well, hey, Brandon, once again, man, I definitely, I want people to check it out. Like I said, it's Brandon, or it's Young underscore Lifestyle, and that's life with a Y, LYFE. And that's the YouTube channels that you have. Very informative. I had a chance to check out a couple of them. I definitely appreciate you putting that information out. A lot of people are keep it to myself, and I don't want to share the wealth, and I want to share the knowledge. But y'all got to understand that it's money out here to get, and there's money out here for everyone to benefit from. And so look at the venues, look at those options. I appreciate what you're doing out there. Like I said, I appreciate you because somebody got to deliver in New York. It won't be me. So I appreciate what you do. And I definitely encourage people to check them out. We're going to put the information on our Facebook page, the Pick Me Up at 5 show, so that you guys can get in touch with Light or with Brandon if you have any questions, you want to find out some more tips, kind of promote that. And listen, man, I'd love to have you back once you get that e-learning kind of going and to help promote that and generate that. I'd love to have you back on the show to talk to our listeners about it so they can head on over there and pick up some other good tips that you had. So once again, man, thanks for joining us here on the Pick Me Up at 5 show. And for the listeners, we will be right back after this last break, pay some bills, and then we'll be wrapping it up here on the Pick Me Up at 5 show.